The Ward Scott Files is produced by Ward Scott Files, LLC.
Come on, everybody! Come on, everybody!
This is a Ward Scott Files advisory. The Ward Scott Files radio show may contain material not suited for people who are easily offended. Trust us on this. This show contains adult information and opinions. Please protect small children, sensitive pets, fragile houseplants, and liberal relatives. Thank you.
Good morning, good morning. Here we are in the Warthog Man Cave. Professor Ward Scott here with you, bringing you some things to think about and things to talk about and things to accept or reject or modify to your own needs. We'll try to give you the story that is most interesting for you to avoid, of all things, being a rock in a box of rocks and then participate a little more intelligently. Well, one of the things we do here on the Ward Scott Files here locally is we do keep track of the chestnut family, because the chestnut family is associated with the Gillum family, and there's some things going on in the Gillum world that we've been reporting to you that they don't appear to be just completely what they ought to be. And the reason we keep a track on Gillum is because he narrowly almost became the governor, heaven forbid, of the state of Florida, and he probably will still come around in some form or shape or another in the 2020 thing, since he is a person of color, and those people seem to be in high demand, notwithstanding qualifications. So we keep an eye on Gillum, we keep an eye on Chestnut. But his brother Chuck Chestnut has been in these fender benders before that I'm going to report real briefly and quickly here with you. And the last time he was in a fender bender, it extended into a 2-year drawn-out legal battle over whose wine, what mine, where the heck did I dine, whose fault was it, oh, I got out and I got to get the money collar on my neck and my back and all this stuff, and the insurance companies got involved, and Chris Chestnut was his attorney. It got really nasty, and it drew out for quite a period of time, and even to the extent that the investigator and I went to the court twice to listen to these proceedings personally, and I wish we'd recorded it, because it was just really amazing to watch this stuff up close and personal. But apparently on April the 10th, and we have the report here, that I think that Jay will probably toss up there in a minute. There was a little crash that occurred, and it looks like it was if it was Chuck's fault here. He ran into the back of some guy who didn't, I don't know, get out of his way or something. And it was in daylight, and it was all the stuff the above and everything. And you know, we just wanted to make you aware of the fact that we do come to keep an eye on the Chestnut family. We keep an eye on these type of things in particular, because, as I said, last time it blew up into a big brouhaha, and it was not a pretty scene. So I don't know what become of this. Maybe this will quietly go away, but apparently the victim of the crash, the rear end crash, it appears to be, was sitting on the 43rd Street and got smashed in the rear end by Chuck. So just want to throw that out to you. This is the Chestnut family here. The mother is the most powerful person around here in the Democrat Party. She's the chair of the Democrat Party. She's probably been getting a public check mostly all of her life. She was on the school board, and she was on the House of Representatives here, and then she was a commissioner. So she's been getting supping at the public trough for quite some time, and now she's the chair of the Democratic Executive Committee here. And you know, that group controls the power in this community because it controls the press, and the press is very favorable to the Democrat Party. And as I've even known instances where Ms. Chestnut has gone, and I liked her. I know her very, very well. All of them very, very well. They're always very nice to me and everything, and that's fine. And I'm you know, I understand this is the world we live in, and this is the nature of what we do. And you do your thing, and Ward Scott Files does its thing, and we all go on about our business each day. But we do keep a track on these people. They're public figures, and they have responsibilities, and they have you know, obligations and all this kind of things in the community, these kind of things in the community. So we keep a track on it, and hopefully this is just one of those things that will be put to rest right here, right now. So that's the local thing. We're not going to get into too much local today right now. We got Chuck Clemons coming up, if all goes well, at 7:45 with our interview with Chuck Clemons, who is a representative to the State House here in Florida, to talk about whatever is going on in the Tallahassee world. So we've got that to look forward to with you. And once again, we've got some things that we'll talk about with you in the big world here of, and probably the most interesting thing, there's not a lot to report about it just yet though, and that is Julian Assange. Is really, this character has been in and out of the news, as you know, for quite a while, for a long time, and he's been holed up. He probably really is rivaling the behavior of one, if you remember this guy, Howard Hughes, who became really kind of a real character once upon a time, and that he became so disheveled and I don't know, unkept and cautious, grew his fingernails long and all kinds of stuff like that. So we've kept track of this guy Assange for quite a while now. But yesterday, I guess you can say that his time was up. They had had enough of him for all kinds of reasons, some of which are apparently mysterious right now. That will not mysterious. Huh?
They kicked him out because they said he spread poop on the walls.
Well, yeah, that's one of the things he did do. He spread poop on the walls. Come on, man. Now, there's a lot of good people spread poop on the walls, huh? Maybe the toilets were backed up. I don't have a clue, man. Come on, what else? I know that. I wasn't going to say that, Jay. It's a family show. You go ahead. And the other stuff, they said he didn't brush his teeth. He had an oral hygiene problem, all right? Bless his heart. Maybe they didn't get him adequate dental care, huh? But he's dragged unceremoniously out of that. All he appears to be the head. And but we're going to talk a little bit. The Daily Caller has come up with an article which I thought was kind of interesting. And what do you need to know about Julian Assange and who wants a piece of him and why? Well, he's 47 years old. He's Australian born, and he's the founder of WikiLeaks, which I guess is just a big hack. This is your world, Jay. He's just a big hack artist, right?
Yeah, but he had national. Yeah.
Well, he hacked big time stuff. I know that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a hero in the hacking world.
He's a hero. In the dark side of the hacking world, he's a hero, right? Sweden, Ecuador, the UK, United States, these people have all been. Now, here's what. So the Daily Caller has gone through. I'll give you this summary, so maybe you'll get caught up on who he is and what's going on. And we don't know where this is going, but he's going to fight extradition and all the above. But in Sweden, 2 Swedish women, referred to only as Miss A and Miss W, according to the Daily Caller, accused Assange of sexual assaults that stem from separate consensual encounters in 2010. That the women say became consensual when he allegedly refused to wear a condom. Now, does that go along with the poop on the walls? I don't know why that has.
Thought you said this is a family show.
It's a family show, but I don't know what in the world that has to be. Would you haul you out of the Ecuadorian? I mean, these many years later for that. But anyway, he requested asylum in Ecuadorian embassy there, where he's been living these many years, and as Jay said, I don't know, putting poop on the walls, and what all's in there. There's some other things I read, Jay, about his behavior, but he's in self-exposed exile, and but that didn't end it all. When he turned himself into the British authorities, and basically in the beginning, I guess to get away from the Swedish women, I sort of get the feeling that's why he was looking to get into the Ecuadorian embassy. And so I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, the Daily Caller's trying to figure it out too. The guy's kind of a mystery dude. So he goes to the Ecuadorian embassy instead of complying with extradition orders, which are going to send him back to face the women, I guess. And one thing led to another, and he was in asylum in Ecuador's London embassy for 7 years, okay? And officially, Ecuador Interior Minister Mario Paulo stated that Assange's asylum was revoked over his attempt to influence Ecuador's internal affairs. Now that, you can come up with an excuse for things, and obviously you need an excuse. I don't know if that's a legitimate excuse or not to sling him out of there unceremoniously like he is in the picture there. But now Ecuador has taken the position, and they're not going to become known as a hacking center, and they're not going to allow illegal activities to take place in their embassy in a country that is also trying to harm their own country. So That is one. Apparently, he wore out his welcome with them, and that you can believe that as a real reason or not. I report it to you as the caller reports it, and there'll be more coming out about this guy. But he is a mystery guy. The biggest thing we want him for is apparently is his relationship with Chelsea Manning, right, Jay, who was this traitor, I guess, and he helped that. Is it a he or her? A she? I can't get it straight. Chelsea Manning? I don't know. I can't remember. I think wasn't there a sex change operation involved in that? I'm losing track of these people. Somebody out there knows in viewer land. But the United States wants Assange on a number of computer hacking charges, most notably related to the information provided by convicted leaker and former Army private Chelsea Manning. And I think you do a little Google. He was a man, but then it became a woman. I don't know, man. What good are you, Jay? Well, can they go can she go in any bathroom? Yes, in Janesville for sure. So Assange, through WikiLeaks, which I guess is his invention, is suspected of taking an active role in assisting the former NSA analyst Edward Snowden. You remember that guy in his 2013 release of thousands of documents, classified information. And when the Russian agents hacked the DNC, WikiLeaks made sure they were disseminated to the public. And WikiLeaks was further scrutinized by the Mueller, the Gould probe, as investigators wanted to find out whether anyone within the Trump campaign may have had prior knowledge of the DNC emails prior to their public release. Now, you know that Trumpster is trying to be depicted as somebody who all of a sudden is arm's length from Assange, because in the campaign days, when Assange was leaking stuff about Hillary the liar, Trumpster said on the campaign trail that he loved WikiLeaks. Well, now they're trying to say, well, geez, you changed your tune now that we dragged him out of the doggone Ecuadorian embassy, and now you're saying you don't know anything about it. Well, I don't think the two positions are in Congress at all. Back on the campaign trail, he was spreading the truth about Hillary the liar, and it had nothing to do with Trump paying him to do it. What the heck's wrong with that? I mean, that's just a fortuitous situation. And besides, I think what he hacked was so about her. So now, didn't you say you loved WikiLeaks back then? Well, today he says, I don't have anything to do with this. Oh, they're trying to pin all this on the Trump. Just get used to it. They're trying to say that he had prior knowledge of this DNC mail stuff. The Gould would have figured that out. The Gould would have figured that out whenever he was going through stuff. It would have been in the report, and it would have added up to something. So the big question about this guy, though, and this is pretty interesting for all of us who are involved in presenting the news to you, is that they can't figure out his status. What is he really? Is he a hero to the hackers and therefore on the dark side of the computer world? Or is he a journalist? Or is he a publisher? And the reason this definition is so relevant is it will entitle him to certain protections. But he's in a world that in digital broadcasting and days of computers and data breaching and all that stuff is really kind of in many ways a gray area. And, we have this censorship, which is all arbitrary and capricious, going on by, and basically left-oriented in ideology. It's going on and demonstrably by Facebook and Twitter. And we know that. And even Amazon, I think, gets involved in this. So we know that now the latest thing I've heard is that Amazon's recording what you ask Alexis. Well, whoever thought it wouldn't be? I mean, what do you think is going on when you speak to a stupid machine and you say, Alexis, open the door or whatever? Alexis can hear what you're doing, because I know of a situation, and I don't think I've got this wrong, where a guy came home and heard Alexis listening to commands from his wife while there was another guy there. Do you remember that, Jay? And all of a sudden, Alexis busted the tryst there. So, I don't know what's new. What do you think is happening over there with Alexis in your room, and you're talking to it and it's listening to you? Where do you think all that information's going? So the problem with Assange is, where does he fit in all this? What is he about? How how do we evaluate him? What protections is he entitled to? So everything you need to know about Julian Assange is really just starting to be put together. It's
FBI, open up!
Is that the way they got him out of there, Jay? Oh, golly, that even raised a hair on my neck. Oh my golly, how rude and crude. Well, that's basically the way they got Stone out of his place too, didn't they? Oh golly. I hope you all didn't jump over there as you're eating your breakfast, but Jay's a devilish lad every once in a while. We're going to talk about Ilhan Omar a minute because she has really stirred up a mess. As you know, why can't she not? Her basic thing, and you know this. I'll tell you about. Everybody knows about 9/11 in my generation anyway, and but we've got people out at the colleges now who were not born during 9/11, and they don't know a darn thing about it. So once again, they're subject to all sorts of spins that they weren't there firsthand and don't know much about. So understandably, there's pictures and all that, but people can interpret these pictures. Like I say the other day, I was talking to some man who's, I don't know, well-educated in an important position in society and still believes there are more than one assassin on the grassy knoll of the Kennedy thing, which I sat there and listened to and thought, man, this is nuts, you know? So, I mean, and if you ever go to the range and you're any kind of marksman at all, you know it's very, very possible that a guy can fire off 2 shots in a bolt action like that and be very accurate with it at that distance. That's nothing really for that long rifle. So, so now we got all this stuff with Omar's trivialization of 9/11, and you know, once again, it's going to be worth talking about now because it's going to cause. And of course, her buddy Talib comes along and sticks up for her. We've been reporting all along that these Muslims are really dedicated to a whole different objective than, you know, they purport to be. If you ask them, they say, oh no, we took an oath in the Constitution, this and that. No, that's not really their goal. Their goal is to infiltrate through our system and then overthrow the system. So the New York Post front cover Thursday gave a blunt response to Democratic Minnesota Rep. Ilhan Omar. Now, how did all these Somalian people wind up in Minnesota? We're pretty sure that is a result of the efforts of Barack Hussein Obama at refugee relocation. And we had a refugee relocation area right close here that operated under the nose of all the officials for a long, long time. And I was tipped off to it by somebody who was available to give this information and didn't know where to give it. And when I got it and went to FDLE and Homeland Security and all that, they knew nothing. They knew nothing about it. It was really, really quite amazing that they knew nothing about it because, you know, here it had been going on for quite a while, but the people who'd been watching it said that what would happen is busloads of Middle East males would arrive in the middle of the night coming down 301 and in Middle East clothes and leave the next morning early in Western clothes by car caravan. And where did they go? Well, it appears that one of the places that was a depository for this was, no doubt, a place like Minnesota, where there's a concentration of these people to the extent that they can now elect somebody to Congress. And she said that the September 11, 2011 terrorist attack was some people who did something. Well, you know, that doesn't sit well. There's still enough people alive who lost people who, and one of the things that always bothered me about that is one of those planes that flew into that building had a bunch of little kids on it who'd come to New York for a scouting thing. And why did they deserve it, you know, and the horrors that they had to go through at the end. So I will never forgive those people. And, you know, it's something that you have to take very, very seriously, but she's not. She's playing it down, and she delivered this speech on March 23rd. It surfaced on Twitter just this week at a Council for Islamic Relations CARE fundraiser event, which we've been telling you for quite some time is a very dangerous organization. CARE is, you know, just ask Marion County, because they've come down there and threatened the powers that be in Marion County, and I've got a friend who actually had to start carrying to protect himself from some of the death threats he had from CARE. So CARE was a fundraiser event. She used non-specific terms, though, to describe the 9/11 terrorist attacks, and she said some people did something. But what she appeared to be doing was trying to make the case to a majority Muslim audience at CARE that the attacks didn't warrant restricted access to the civil liberties of Muslims. And this CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something and that all of us, this is what she's saying, and all of us were starting to lose access to our civil liberties. So this is not easy for people to accept. And so the New York Post editorial board published an article Wednesday titled Ilhan Omar's Outrageous Write-Off of 9/11 Horrors. And that's pretty critical of her. And they went right after this thing that she said, some people did something, and then responded to it by saying, wow, what a way to describe the heinous surprise attack on America that claimed 3,000 lives. And the article continued that Omar's cavalier brushing off of the murder of thousands of innocents of 9/11 should shock all Americans, and the Muslims included. But what you decide whether you believe the Muslim included is accurate. Now Rashida Tlaib comes along and plays the race card in all this, and as you might expect, if all else fails, she defends the comments of Omar. She's the Democrat Michigan rep. So you've got these people who were relocated in those northern states of Minnesota and Michigan, and they've been relocated in enough concentration that they've now been able to do what is part of their plan, part of their agenda, and that is to send people to our government to eventually overthrow our government with attacks from within without really firing a shot and using our own liberties against us. So Rashida Tlaib has come to the defense of Omar on Thursday, and she says, they do this all the time to us. Now here comes the phrase that is the be-all, end-all phrase. They do this all the time to us, especially women of color. Now if you look at Tlaib, I don't know if you can sling her up on the screen there, Jay, but you tell me how much color you see there. I mean, I'm looking at myself. See, is she a woman of color? Is Tlaib a woman of color? A woman of color. They take our words out of context because they're afraid because we speak the truth. We speak, and here's the other jingle they have, truth to power. We're going to show you before too much further along in the show, a real woman of color who really is powerful, and that's Candace Owens. And she has a very long reply to Fat Jerry and his crowd, too long for us to play in its entirety here on the show. But I asked Jay, who's very good at all this, trying to see if he could cherry pick some of the good moments out of it. Maybe he has. That we'll play for you. But when I watched it, I first saw it out on Facebook. It was so powerful that she's not going to put up with this. And she is, Candace Owens, a real person of color who has really been dumped on by people like Fat Jerry and Bug Eyes Schiff, and even Sleazy Cummings. So now Tlaib refers to Ilhan Omar as my sister, huh? And what she was talking about, what my sister was talking about, was uplifting people by supporting their civil liberties and civil rights. Oh, really? Really? Is that how you spin out the description of 9/11? And then Tlaib says she has always condemned any kind of strategy, especially of a person that is directly impacted by being a refugee herself. This whole idea of her being a refugee is really open to inspection. It seems it was a very deliberate way of gaming the system and getting in here from a country that would shut her up by now if she opened her mouth like this 1 second where she came from. The Muslims would not give Tlaib any of this kind of right to run her mouth, but here they run their mouth. So this refugee thing, they play on that, refugee. You know, the only refugee I know that really lived up to it, you don't have to be a refugee, right, Jay? Tom Petty, huh? You ought to listen to him, man, come on. Yeah, come on, man. Listen, he was my student just like I think I'm trying to teach you something, okay? So anyway, you don't have to be a refugee, Jay. But here's what Tlaib says Omar sees, Jay. She sees what terrorism can do. She sees what violence can do to a whole country, to a whole people. I don't know that gobbledygook means anything. It's really good political spin. But the point is, she was delivering this keynote speech at this fundraiser for CARE. It was videoed. Then the video was uncovered, and it showed Omar urging Muslim Americans to, quote, this is, I don't have the video, maybe one day we'll get it, to raise hell and make people uncomfortable. Now, raise hell and make people uncomfortable. So she faced massive backlash after part of that speech surfaced. So these are the first of America's Muslim Congress women in the Congress, and they've been sworn into office in January. And in the short time they have been there, they've embroiled themselves in allegations of anti-Semitism. They've declared it's a Palestine. They've been pro-Hezbollah. They've been anti-Israel. They've gone out and hung out with Louis Farrakhan. Come on. And Omar has never apologized for her anti-Israeli comments, such as the ones invoking Allah to expose Israel's evil doings. And she's on record stating that Israel is not a democracy. And by the way, we'll cover the demographics of the Israeli youth in here in a little bit. They're all very conservative. They're all very right-wing. And opposite of what we've got going on with some of the youth in this country who are over there running around chasing Bernie's madness and all that crowd, the Israeli youth are exactly the opposite. So she gave an interview to a host that referred to Israel as the Jewish ISIS. She's done a lot of stuff that, I don't know how you can walk back. She doesn't not mean it. She supports Al-Qaeda and Hezbollah. So anyway, the two of them have raised money for CARE. And this is a notable pro-Palestinian organization with ties to Islamic terror groups. And the Department of Justice lists CARE as an unindicted co-conspirator in funding millions of dollars to Hamas. And there you are. So, you make your conclusion. We have been taking the position all along here on the Ward Scott Files that there is a method to their madness, and they know exactly what they're doing, and they're not going to walk it back. They're going to maybe respin it, but they're not really going to walk it back. Now, AOC has been rejected by the black pastors, and I thought this was interesting. There's an organization of black pastors which has told Ocasio-Cortez to stop co-opting the civil rights movement. There are a lot of people who have ripped off the civil rights movement, and one of them is the gays. And I know that the black culture is not a big fan of homosexuality and really resents the gays using the black civil rights movement. And the pastors and all who were involved in that says, listen, buddy, being a gay ain't nothing like, you can hide that, but you can't hide being black. So don't try to say that you're equivalent to what we've gone through. So the leaders of an organization of black pastors, they directly addressed Ocasio-Cortez and told her to stop co-opting the civil rights movement to advance her political agenda. Okay, this is covered by Dr. Susan Berry, who writes out there about this, and it comes up on the news aggregates. Reverend William Owens, who's the president of the Coalition of African American Pastors, and there's all kinds of organizations like this, but this organization obviously has a little bit of clout in order to make it out here to the news, said it was necessary for those who marched in America's civil rights movement to defend it against the efforts of individuals such as Ocasio-Cortez, who are co-opting their sacrifice. I've known about this for a long time. I have many friends in the black community. I'm fully aware of what they've been up against and what their strategies were. I was a big fan of King. I'm not a fan of the others, of Jesse Jackson and Farrakhan and Sharpton and that bunch. I don't have any use for them. I just think they exploit almost as bad as Ocasio-Cortez does and rips off this movement. So it's easy to take credit for something really that you don't deserve taking credit for. So the black pastor said that Cortez has fallen into the bad habit of comparing her political goals to the American civil rights movement. And she does not seem to realize that her statements trivialize the work of those who marched. No, I doubt she does. She is right in there, it's very difficult to take Cortez seriously when, as we showed you the other day, while eating, I don't know what she was eating, Jay. What was she eating? Cheerios or something? Popcorn. She compared climate change deniers to those who fought against the civil rights movement. That really irked the black pastors. I mean, how in the world can you compare climate change deniers, which is a huge abstraction, big hoax perpetrated on mankind, to those people who actually crossed the Pettus Bridge in Selma? You can't. The two aren't comparable. If she were trying to write this paper for Professor Warthog here in advanced composition, she'd flunk that paper. And she'd probably argue and go to the dean. And let me tell you how that worked. If you had a weak dean, then the dean would side with the weak student, and then you'd have to go back and fight the student and the dean. There's nothing worse than that in educational hierarchy, than having teachers in the trenches doing the real work, having a kid. A kid will learn. Let me tell you what these students learn right away, and it's indicative of people, just period, in general. The people, students in this case, know where the soft target is. They know where their whining will be received. So they have no trouble doing an end run around a tough teacher and going to a dean. If that dean or chair is a weak person, now I personally saw to it that we got rid of one of the chairs at the college that I thought was this kind of person. This person whom I was instrumental in moving out of that position was somebody who thought the word prophet was a bad word. So you know how liberal that person was. And you know that the students who didn't want to be tough-loved and really learn and buckle down and be responsible for getting out of their comfort zone, they learned that character had a position of power, and they found that person right away and knocked on that person's door. And a lot of people down below in the ranks would not have done what I did, but I raised what they call holy hell about that. So this is being perpetrated as hoax, and she's taking advantage of it. And you have to report these things. You have to let people know that this is happening, so that you keep your eyes open and you understand the strategy behind all this. These are the people who were raised without much knowledge of the history of the country. Most of their ideas they got out of a book. They're all kind of corny, and they have to do with some. Yesterday, if you heard the show, I think the thing that really I remember is Kim Tuttle, who went to Cuba with the Dance Alive ballet, who performed there. They had the freedom to go, Kim did, where she wanted to go in Cuba. And there was no toilet paper and no toilet seats. I mean, my golly, man, come on. I mean, and so you're going to endorse socialism? Go take a look at Cuba. Go take a look at Venezuela. What are you thinking? What is wrong with you, Cortez? I mean, so this is an attempt to steal dignity. I think these women here are trying to steal dignity, trying to soft pedal some of the horrors that would really out them as to what they really are, some of their goofy ideas, and they're going to have to figure out a way to keep her out of the limelight, so everybody can. But it's a tough deal. I want to go over to how much of this were we able to find, by the way, on Candace Owens, Jay. Were we able to find a little bit of that interaction between her and Fat Jerry? I don't know if Jay's back, or I guess he's not hearing me. Oh, did you? Okay, let me just give a little prelude before we play it, Jay. Fat Jerry called her in there to testify. Well, actually, he didn't call her. The minority members of that committee, who are the Republicans, can bring in their own witness. So they brought, Fat Jerry would never have called this woman, Candace Owens, to testify, because they didn't want to hear what she had to say. But the Republicans had the right to bring in a witness, so they brought in Candace Owens. They cheap-shotted Candace Owens. Let me tell you, Candace Owens, if you haven't met her, is one tough, intelligent, articulate, charming human being. Play what you got there, and I'll talk about it after you play it, Jay.
Sure, even though I was called despicable. Witness may not refer to a member of the committee as stupid.
I didn't refer to him as stupid. That's not what I said. That's not what I said at all. You didn't listen to what I said. May I continue?
Please.
As I said, he is assuming that black people will not go pursue the full 2-hour clip. And he purposefully extracted, he cut off, and you didn't hear the question that was asked of me. He's trying to present as if I was launching a defense of Hitler in Germany, when in fact, the question that was asked of me was pertaining to whether or not I believed that Hitler was whether or not I believed in nationalism, and that nationalism was bad. And what I responded to was that I do not believe that we should be characterizing Hitler as a nationalist. He was a homicidal, psychopathic maniac that killed his own people. A nationalist would not kill their own people. That is exactly what I was referring to in the clip, and he purposely wanted to give you a cut-up similar to what they do to Donald Trump to create a different narrative. That was unbelievably dishonest, and he did not allow me to respond to it, which is worrisome and should tell you a lot about where people are today in terms of trying to drum up narratives. By the way, I would like to also add that I work for Prager University, which is run by an Orthodox Jew. Not a single Democrat showed up to the embassy opening in Jerusalem. I sat on a plane for 18 hours to make sure that I was there. I'm deeply offended by the insinuation of revealing that clip without the question that was asked of me.
Boy, I tell you what, that girl can be. We still got it going on. That girl can be in my foxhole any day. I mean, that is powerful stuff. Her daddy was a sharecropper back there behind her, on her left. She makes no apologies for the past. I mean, and you know, she's going forward, and she's not going to allow herself be used by this bunch of idiots over here in Fat Jerry's committee. I just cannot get enough of this young woman. Her candor, her honesty, her commitment. They don't refer to her as a person of color. They don't want none of her, buddy. They want to stay away from her. She's too much to handle. They can't take care of that type of person. This is what I wish, so much do I wish, that we had here locally. We had black leaders like this who would call out the hypocrisy of the white progressive left and make them get their act together and stop all the hypocrisy and the lies and exploitation of people. We got nothing like that here locally. We got nothing like that in that Gillum character. I've gone back and researched. Let me just tell you a couple of stories about Gillum in high school. Every time there was any kind of speech that he participated in, and he was pretty good at it, he had to work in the race card. And his instructor told him, you know, the race card doesn't apply to all these speeches that you're giving. And so he dressed down and advised the young Gillum not to conduct himself that way. And the next thing the instructor knew, the instructor was in the principal's office, as I understand it, as I've been told this, and said, listen, you know, you can't, this is a racist type deal. You can't tell Gillum not to play the race card. He's black, da-da-da-da. That Gillum kid grew up using that race card exactly the opposite way from the way this woman, Candace Owens, does. The National Committee there tried to censor her. We're going to talk about that. YouTube censored her. I want to just get to that, Jay, and have a moment with our audience about that. Apparently, PragerU announced on Wednesday that YouTube placed another of its videos in restricted mode, meaning that not everyone who visits the video sharing website will be able to watch Candace Owens. What they did is they restricted what we showed you. We're showing you right now Candace Owens' powerful testimony before the House Judiciary Committee, run by Fat Jerry, and so this is a serious situation. The restricted video is of Candace Owens' testimony, and I recommend that we don't have time to play it all. It's about 7 minutes. I recommend that you go out and Google it and take a look at it and listen to it for yourself. This video was restricted by YouTube. It had several viral moments, one of which has also recently become the most watched C-SPAN video of a House hearing on Twitter. So you can bet your bottom dollar this guy, you know, that got after her, this guy Lou, you know, he's a Democrat, Oriental, Asian. I guess Oriental, you can't use that word anymore. Asian guy on the doggone committee, trapped her, tried to set her up by taking things out of context on her, and she exploded on that guy. what this restricted mode apparently means is that the video is censored from all users who have enabled the website's restricted mode feature, which typically includes, and here's what happens, you know, you can't see this in the library. You can't go, as a kid can't go and see Candace Owens say this if the kid is in the library. The kid can't see it from school. The kid can't see it from a public institution. So if you're down here working for the government in Alachua County and you're on a computer, apparently you will not be able to go on that computer, since you're working for the government, to this YouTube thing and see Candace Owens' powerful testimony as she puts down Fat Jerry and his crew at the House Judiciary Inquisition, which is what it really is. So any public institutions, anywhere viewers may belong to a younger demographic, they can't see it. This feature is used in order to block videos, basically, that have been deemed inappropriate. It was designed to be used for pornography. So there you go. This says, the restricted at YouTube, this is a quote, has placed our video of real Candace O's testimony before the House Judiciary Committee in restricted mode, tweeted PragerU on Wednesday. Why is YouTube trying to prevent people from hearing Candace's words? Well, you can only infer from that YouTube has a political bias against conservatives. Why else would you block people from hearing this? And PragerU is also a lightning rod for liberals. They don't like PragerU's videos. They don't like PragerU's position. They've often ended up on YouTube's restriction list. The Ward Scott Files right now is out on YouTube. You may go out there and see all our shows. Jay's putting them out there. But so it's strange. It's, you know, if you're going after this type of testimony in a public forum at the United States Congress, and you can't let people see this, and you already you've been accused, if you're on the left, of controlling Silicon Valley and academia and the media, then you've got yourself a situation that is not all that healthy, I would consider to be the case for our country. Now, there is something going on we're going to try to get with Chuck Clemons here in a little bit, and while we're doing that, I'll tell you that there is something going on, of course, with Barr, and I think he will get at some of these guys who've broken the law, and we'll keep an eye on that for you. But Matt Gaetz has come up with something that's kind of interesting. I thought I'd tell you. It's called he filed something called the Pencil Act. And the Pencil Act refers to Rush Limbaugh's nickname for Bug-Eye Schiff, which is Pencil Neck. And so Matt Gaetz, who's from Florida, filed the Pencil Act, calling for Representative Adam Schiff to be removed from the House Intelligence Committee and for a security clearance to be revoked. What'd you say, Jay? Trump's nick? Well, I think he picked it up from Rush. But anyway, the two of them, that's good enough. I call him Pencil Neck. Look at that. Well, I call him Bug Eyes, but they all work. Anyway, Gaetz wants him, and I think, you know, be removed from I don't know if you'll get it done, you know, but he's filed a Pencil Act asking, and this guy's a Democrat from California, and California, you know, we think maybe in the next big earthquake will break off and float out to sea. We don't know. But anyway, you know, his security clearance, he's been, golly, see what I mean, Jay? You got the right that picture gives me, I can't sleep tonight now that you show that. So PENCIL acronym stands for, I did not know this, Jay. Did you know this stands for Preventing Extreme Negligence with Classified Information Licenses? I didn't know that. Okay. But it also appears to be references to President Trump's latest nickname for Schiff, which is Little Pencil Neck. Oh, golly. How demeaning. How much mockery can you stand? How much can you tolerate? But let's remember why he got this. He's a member of the Gang of Eight, who's been characterizing critical and sensitive intelligence information, leaking it out. And for 2 years, he's falsely claimed that there was clear evidence on the issue of collusion. He claimed this for okay. So we're going to stop this now and talk with our representative, Chuck Clemons. Chuck, welcome to the Ward Scott Files, sir.
Hey, good morning, Ward. Happy Friday to you, sir.
Well, we certainly have reached another weekend, and by now something's happened in the legislature in Tallahassee. I'm sure that's the case, is it not?
Well, it's a buzz of activity in Tallahassee. It's kind of like a beehive, and some of the good things that are happening is we're making it a little bit harder to pass a constitutional amendment. I think you'll be happy with that.
Can you explain that a little bit to listeners, what all that entails? I don't even think a lot of people understand, how things get on the Constitution. Can end runs be done? Just in real thumbnails.
Well,
yeah.
Sure. There's several ways to amend Florida's Constitution. Of course, let me toot the horn. One of the great things about Florida Constitution, Ward, is that we'll never have an income tax, never have a state income tax, and that is ensconced in our Constitution. The challenge is that it's been really easy for someone of means, let's say a multi-millionaire, to pay people to get ballots or signatures, to get the requisite signatures to get something put on to the ballot. And if you recall, in recent history, we've had a ballot initiative passed regarding pregnant pigs.
Yes, I remember that
Ward,
so well. Yes.
Ward, I grew up on the chicken farm, and I'm here to tell you that neither pigs nor chickens needs to be ensconced in our state constitution.
Well, let's go back for a moment and pick up how that happened for people. Jay, my young helper here, is 19. I bet he doesn't know how that happened. Can we just do a quick, they had to go out and get signatures, right? Can you explain that real quickly?
Sure. Yeah, you need to have, 700,000 signatures, or there's some particular level of signatures. But once you get it, it's automatically put on to the ballot, and then at one time it was a majority of 50%. So the pregnant pigs got put on with about maybe 52% of the vote in that general election. Since that time, the legislature has raised the limit to 60%. And if you recall, this last November the 6th, we had, I think, 13 amendments, and all but one passed. And it was certainly one of the ones I voted for was the increased homestead exemption.
Right.
And it did not get the 60%, but all other 13 amendments to our state constitution passed. So it's fairly easy to get it, and it shouldn't be easy to amend the Constitution.
Do you know how many amendments there are? I don't know.
I'm not certain, but our federal Constitution only has about 27.
Right.
We've got far more than 27.
We easily get that many in 1 year almost, it seems like, in one election routine, it seems like.
Absolutely. And here's the challenge, Ward, is that, in that 20-word or however small description, first of all, it makes the ballots extremely long. People don't know what they're voting for. And it's really boiled down to some soundbite of 5 or 6 second soundbite. And so, therein lies the problem. The structure of our government in Florida should be the Constitution. How we deal with everything in that structure should be done statutorily.
Well, is that going to make it to the daylight? You think it'll get through, Chuck?
I don't know. I mean, we passed the House. It had passed on the floor yesterday. That's House Bill 7111 regarding constitutional amendments. It moved it up to 66%, which is a 2/3 vote. And we'll see. I certainly support it because I believe that it's too easy to amend our governing document when most of those things would be just fine in statute. And it's not easy to get a statute passed. I mean, we've got 120 members of the House, 40 members of the Senate, and of course the governor must agree with that also. So it's not like the horse, Ward, can take the bit and run to the barn in the state legislature. You can't. It's pretty difficult to pass something in the legislature.
We're talking with Representative Chuck Clemons, our local representative here, and we've got a wonderful opportunity to text us in a message. We'll see it on the screen, or a question if you want to ask Chuck. He's been a long-time personal friend, and he's also been a long time involved. He was once upon a time a county commissioner, so he's got a real political resume, and really happy that he's agreed to come on, I think, every other Friday with us, rotate with us with Keith Perry from over on the Senate side of the aisle. There's some other controversial things that we're aware of that seem to raise a lot of attention. School vouchers seems to be one. Is that come up on your desk or anything about that in your side of the aisle?
It hasn't yet, but it's coming, and it has to do basically with giving parents choices and giving parents of underserved or minority students' choices. If you're in a failing school and you have the means, you pull your kids out and you put them into the expensive private school. If you're in a failing school and you maybe don't have as many means, you can pull your kids out and it goes to your church school. But let me share with you, it's the poor parents that have no choices. And so if you have a continuously failing school, you're really discriminating against those parents and the poor children. More than 70% of the charter school attendees are underrepresented or under the income level. So it's basically serving areas that are not normally served, and I support that.
Yeah, in other words, this voucher would target those of less economic well-being and enable them to perhaps make the same choice that those who have a little better start in life have already. That seems to be fair, and that's, I think...
Yeah, it is. And let me give you a real-life example. 3 years ago at this time of the year, Jefferson County School District, which is Monticello, which is just outside of Tallahassee, Ward, they received their 10th year F. So they had received an F grade for 10 straight years, because the state law said that you had to fail for 10 years before the state would do anything about it. And so in that 2017 legislative session, the legislature voted for and the governor signed so that you only could fail 3 years, and then the state would step in. I mean, goodness gracious, 10 years of Fs. Here's what happened in Monticello. Anyone, after the first couple years of Fs, the affluent kids, guess what? They went to the private school, and then it left even a bigger void. After about 5 or 6 years, the kids continued. The ones who could get out, got out. And after like year 7, 8, and 9, there were very few kids left. And their cry for more money was answered about every 2.5 years with the legislature. If you just give us more money, we'll turn the school around. Just give us more money. Guess what? At the end of a decade, they were the highest paid teachers in the state. They were the highest paid administrators in the state. Guess what? Since they got almost double, the $12,400 per student, and the average was $7,300 per student, so they almost got double. They had the highest paid administrative and janitorial staff, because you could only spend it in the district, and they still failed. So that's my example, real life, that it's not just the money.
Well, that's an excellent example, and you've been around education quite a bit, and so you recognize these things perhaps in a little more sharper focus than somebody who may not have been through your experiences, and mine too, for that example. What about
another example? Yeah. Locally, let me just another example locally is I have 3 school districts. I have a Alachua County School District, Gilchrist County, and Dixie County. Alachua County, I think they're the B school. Without the charter schools, look into this in the Department of Education website. Without the charter schools' grades helping to bring Alachua County up, they would not be a B. They would not be a B district. Gilchrist County, which is 100% free and reduced lunch, they are an A school district, and they get the same amount of allocation from the state as does the rest of the counties. And they have, as of up to last year, the highest graduation. I think they may be the second highest this year, 92% graduation rate. And they pay their teachers $6,500 average more per year. It's not about the money. It's about management and making the right decisions at the administrative and the school board level.
Well, I'm so proud of Gilchrist County and Trenton in that area, because you and I both know that that's a very successful community, and it's really a community, and it focuses
yes,
on.
It is.
That's one of the things that I think underpins all of this is the community. Of course, we have these big school districts and big areas to deal with, and you and I have talked about this. And now it's become known as a school guardian program, and I wanted to maybe get your thoughts on that.
Well, terrible thing happened in 2018, February the 14th, when 17 innocent lives were snuffed out. 17 people, 15 students, and I think two adults were murdered. They were cold-blooded murdered at Marjory Stoneman Douglas. and it basically sucked all of the oxygen out of the 2018. It's giving me chill bumps to think about it right now, the devastation that happened to those innocent people, sending their children to school, and that's the last time they got to hug them or tell them that they love them, and that's terrible. $400+ million were put together in a program last year to not only make schools safer with a variety of ways, to mental health counseling was a good chunk of that, which needed to happen. But government failed at probably 30 different levels in that situation. They developed a Marjorie Stoneman Douglas panel. And this was a sheriff of Pinellas County, some of the survivors' parents, and a variety of community people. And they came up with a dozen or so recommendations. And this year, we're going to implement some of those recommendations.
Well, I think you and I have watched, and it's not something we have enjoyed watching, but the increasing need on campuses for some sort of weaponized protection. I don't know how else to talk about it. You know, at Santa Fe College, we've got our own police department now, and as you know, we are prepared as well as any police department is. And I'm reminded of a situation in High Springs, which I'm sure you're familiar with, where there happened to be a fellow there who was a kind of a security guard, as I get it, who stopped an irate parent from coming there, and he did it by being armed, and that guy was armed. So, you know, I know it's controversial, but I have seen it come from the beginning days of my involvement in the public education world, and increasing vigilance needed to take care of the students. And I just think it's a time it's come. I think, you know, with the right training programs, you know, they're not going to come to a soft target. I mean, that's basic.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. 7 of the 8 worst mass murders were in gun-free zones. And I tell every group that comes to me that's against firearms, I tell them that fact. 7 of the 8 worst mass shootings occurred in gun-free zones. They're target-rich environments. If you have a mindset to murder, some of these potential solutions that these groups are proffering make no sense. One more rule, one more law, one more ordinance is not going to stop someone who is hell-bent on murdering another human being. They're in my office trying to lobby me on gun control and removing guns. What I share with them is this. If the person that murdered 17 people, there's 17 counts of first-degree murder, which is punishable by death. What ordinance, rule, or any other governance factor would preclude or prevent that murderer from committing those murders? If you can do it, give it to me. I'll champion the bill, but you can't, because it's a state of mind. Murderers do not care about laws.
Absolutely, I'd agree with you totally on that. And I hope you guys come out of that debate with, you know, really standing firm on sensible things and not give in to, you know, somebody who is really means well perhaps, but just doesn't understand some of the basic things that are involved in the opportunities that these people see, one of which is the soft target. Got a couple more minutes. We're talking with Chuck Clemons. One of the things that I'm aware of, I don't know if it has any possibilities or what stage it's in, is something called the Fetal Heartbeat Bill. Is that anything near what we can get involved in Florida? A measure that would prohibit abortion as soon as the heartbeat is detected?
There's been some talk about that, and there's a bill, but in any of the 5 committees that I serve on, I have not seen or heard that particular bill in the silos that I'm involved in, and it's not been scheduled for the floor. So I'm probably not optimistic that would make it through at least the House this year.
Well, just quickly, those committees you're on, since you raised them, would you mind letting the listeners know what those are?
Sure. Yeah. Well, listen, hey, the Speaker, Jose Oliva, has been very good to me. My number one choice was to be the chair of the House Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee.
Great
one. It's been very busy this year.
Great
we
one.
Heard 17 bills. 12 of those had to do with water, blue-green algae, you know, environmental type of things. So it was a very busy committee, and most of those bills are headed to the floor now.
And you say several other committees as well, but you're chair of that one.
I do, yeah. Yeah, the insurance and banking. I'm the vice chair of the insurance and banking. We just passed out a piece of legislation that's going to be beneficial to all policyholders in Florida, which would help to reduce, or maybe I hope to eliminate, the assignment of benefits debacle. You know, you get unscrupulous contractors after you've had a loss at your home, let's say a flood damage. They come to your door and say, you know, hey, Mr. Scott, if you can sign here, I'll take care of your entire claim for you, and we'll fix your house just the way it needs to be. You don't have to worry about a thing, and you sign it. What you don't realize is that you have signed away all of your rights to every benefit in your insurance policy. Matter of fact, you can't even talk to your insurance agent anymore.
Wow.
Or with that assignment of benefits. And here's the thing. Your insurance company, before they really even know the details of your claim, the claimant who you've assigned the benefits to has been in cahoots with a law firm. And they are sending notice to your insurance company that they're suing them. So you have assigned your benefit. Those people are suing your insurance company, and you don't even know it.
Boy, I tell you. Well, Chuck, I'm so glad you're there. I'm so glad you're, astute, and you've got a lot of expertise and training and intelligence to bring these things. I'm glad you've been put in a position on these committees, and sometime in the future we talk to you. I hope we can talk to you 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now. You agreeable? I hope.
Please, yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir. Please invite me back.
All right. Thank you, sir. Representative Chuck Clemons here from our area, who is on some very important committees. Basically, of which the first one he's chair of is the Agricultural Committee, which is a tremendously important committee in the state of Florida. So we plan on bringing
Chuck,
you.
taking off the line.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. And we really plan on bringing you these conversations as often as we can, both from our state legislature and experts from the national level too, when we have available times to talk to them. So we try to bring the local, the state, the national, and other things that might be relevant to your everyday life and keep you informed here on the Ward Scott Files. We're going to have a great weekend. We hope you have a great weekend, and a lot of things going on here in our town. Spring game and some other things, some activities, tennis teams playing for the championship of the SEC. There's a home show, a lot of stuff going on. So I hope you're having a great spring here in the state of Florida where we are. This is our finest month, April. And it is a great time to get outside and watch everything start to take off for springtime. So, Jay, thanks very much for helping today. As always, thanks to Big Daddy Productions. Thanks for all our sponsors. We got some new ones coming on. We are very excited about that. And we appreciate all our listeners and fans of the Ward Scott Files. Have a great weekend. Warthog Command Center out.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Do you want to put your business in front of 10,000 new customers? Visit wardscottfiles.tv today for more information on our advertising opportunities.